Hello, people. How are you guys doing? I hope you are having a fabulous Monday. Let's discuss on Brighton versus Manchester United. Manchester United lost the game 2-1 with Brighton scoring goals from Danny Welbeck and João Pedro, where United were able to pull one back from Dalot, but it was not enough. It was a defensive disaster class. They were not able to take control of the game as Rashford and Bruno went missing. There were some tactical decisions that went wrong for Ten Hag. And what is the road forward? Let's discuss in our today's episode of Football Pundit. So, welcome to Football Pundit, and without any further ado, let's get started. So the game started pretty even, if I have to say. Till halftime, the game was looking like very even. United had the ball as well as Brighton. There were some good counter-attack opportunities and some good transition movements from Manchester United that could have led to one or two goals. There was a super ball from Dalot, which was unfortunately couldn't be controlled by Amad Diallo, and he fluffed his shot wide. So there was another chance from Diallo where during the transition where he could have just laid the ball for Rashford, who was in acres of space, but he couldn't do that as well. That could have been surely one goal and the situation would have been very different. But unfortunately, Brighton were the first to score with none other than Danny Welbeck, who is back to haunt his previous club. Danny Welbeck became the first player ever to score the amount of goals that he has scored against Manchester United as the most any player has done for his ex-team. So that's another record for you. So Brighton scored one through Danny Welbeck in the first half. Then in the second half, United pulled one back through a deflected shot from Amad Diallo. It was a good move, but the shot was deflected, but it got United one goal back. And then in the final moments, the disaster actually happened, where in the 90 plus 6 minutes of added time, in the 95th minute, it was a defensive disaster where three Brighton players were left unmarked from Manchester United, and it was a tap-in for the João Pedro goal. He was clear to take that header. Nobody was blocking him. Nobody was doing anything, and it resulted in United losing the match. Now let's look at the goals and try to see what went wrong. Now if you see the image here on the right side, this is the first goal that was scored by Danny Welbeck. You see there is a cross that comes in. Harry Maguire should have done better. There is no doubt about it. But he misses the low cross. And then you see in the middle there is Danny Welbeck. On the far post you have Martinez. And you see Diego Dalot in the picture, which is on the 18-yard box. He's just entering it. He's not aware that he should be close to the guy at the far post so that Martinez could come in and then either deflect the shot for Welbeck or stop the cross from coming in and reaching it out. Now, there was a lot of debate on Twitter where everybody was trying to blame Maguire for this, where it is Maguire's fault. Where I do believe that it is a Maguire fault, where he should have cut the cross in the first place. But even when he missed it, look at the positioning of players. You see Casemiro there marking no one. You see Kobe Mainu running in the middle. He is also marking no one. Danny Welbeck is free. If either Mainu, Casemiro or Dalot, so if Dalot could have gone close to the far post player, Martinez could then come in and get the ball off Welbeck. If Martinez right now, if he is taking a check on the player on the far post, Casemiro or Mainu could then get close to Welbeck and stop the cross from coming in. So in total, I feel this was a positioning fault where the Manchester United player were not aware of where they should be positioning themselves for this particular low cross that was coming in. Now let's look at these two instances. The one on the right is where Garnacho scored the goal, but unfortunately it was touched by Joshua Zirkzee, which then resulted in an offside and the goal was disallowed. Now, even though you might feel like Garnacho was unlucky, which I also feel that he was a bit unlucky, but if you see, he was clear on goal. He had nobody challenging him or trying to stop him from taking that shot. You see the keeper is already away from the goal. The defender is away from the goal. And Garnacho had lot of time to place the ball in a better way. Maybe he could have lobbed the shot or maybe hit it in a better way where he could have avoided the contact from Joshua Zirkzee, who was already sliding in. But unfortunately, he couldn't do that. And when the officials and the decision was reviewed, it was disallowed by VAR. This was a moment, was a turning point of the match where if this could have gotten, United would be in 2-1 lead and things would have looked very different. But unfortunately, that was not there. The goal was disallowed. Now, on the left side, you have the goal that was scored by João Pedro on the 95th minute of the game. This is where the team is almost surrendered themselves. Where you look at this goal, you have all the players on the extreme end. So there are 3 Brighton players who are completely left unmarked. There is a small cross that goes in from the player, and João Pedro is completely free to take that goal, to head it down on the ground and to beat Onana. Now if you see here, we have De Ligt in, so, and plus you don't have Harry Maguire on the pitch, so all those people who might be thinking to blame Harry Maguire for this goal as well, unfortunately that's not true, and that's not the case. You don't have Harry Maguire on the pitch. You have all the defenders that you have signed. You have Martinez, you have De Ligt, and if you see the positioning, so De Ligt is there in trying in the middle. Look at the positioning of Martinez. He is on the extreme right side, and I'm not sure what he is blocking. Then you have other players surrounding him as well. There is nobody marking the man on the far post. All the 3 players are free. I feel even if João Pedro would have missed, the other guy would have taken the chance and scored the goal. So this is an absolutely terrible positioning and a terrible defending. Now if you look at it in another way, this was in the 95th minute. A similar thing happened during Manchester United when they went to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge last season, where it was a late goal in the, I think, 97th or 98th minute, where United didn't close down the player. So they didn't close the player at all, and the player shot the ball and it just went in, and United lost that game as well. This is very similar to that. Now all those players near the player who crossed the ball, nobody went in and tried to stop the cross from coming in the first place. At least they should have tried to stop the cross, get it deflected, send it for a corner, do anything, but stop the cross from coming in. But none of the players did that, and then it was an easy cross from him, and since nobody is marking him, it was a absolutely easy header, and that got Brighton the much needed win. Now let's look at some of the statistics for the game. Now you see the statistics. The goal XG for United was close to 1.43 to Brighton's 2.09. If you see the amount of possession, the game was fairly even, with 48% possession with Brighton and 52% with Manchester United. There were 2 big chances created for both the teams. The total amount of shots were 14-11, which was pretty even in that phase as well. Corner kicks were 4-4. And if you see the fouls, there were 9 fouls from Brighton and 13 fouls from Manchester United. There were 477 passes from Brighton and 511 from Manchester United. The tackles were pretty even as well, where it is 17-19. There were a lot of free kicks that Brighton got, that was 13, and the amount of free kicks the Manchester United got was 8. Now if you look at the player rating on the right side, you see the player ratings are pretty evenly distributed, but let me give my 2 cents on it. So Kobe Mainoo had to do a lot of running. He is a generational talent for Manchester United, and I truly adore that player. But he had to do a lot of running throughout the game because Casemiro was unable to do that. And close to 65 to 70 minute mark, he looked exhausted. And Brighton, if you have to remember, it was a pretty open game where there was a lot of transition that was happening for both the teams, and there was a lot of running required, and Mainoo looked a bit exhausted to me. In the first half, where it was Mason Mount was present on the pitch, the game was dominated by Manchester United. Even Brighton were the one who scored the goal, but Mount was doing a lot of pressing on the ball, which really helped Manchester United in trying to break plays from Brighton and trying to rush Brighton players in order to make a pass or to do some mistake. Even during the transition, he played more of a false 9 player that really helped Manchester United. But the moment Mount was taken off at halftime, the situation changed. In the second half, Brighton had more of the control because there was nobody trying to press Brighton the way Mount was doing or trying to break up plays. And Brighton started to dominate the game, even though United pulled one back from Amad Diallo, but Brighton were dominating the game in the majority in the second half. If you look at the defense, from my point of view, apart from Diego Dallo, who really had an impressive first half, I will not give any good rating to any of the defenders. Martinez was, for me, he was at fault as well for both the goals. Harry Maguire was for sure. And for the right back, I think he did a pretty even job. He didn't do any mistakes that led to the goal, or he didn't had much to do with any of the goals that were conceded. He could have maybe went ahead and tried to block the cross from coming in for the second goal, but apart from that, I think he looked pretty. Apart from that, he looked pretty strong to me. Onana, I don't think he is at fault for any of the goals. Both the goals where he couldn't do anything about it, so I'll not blame it on him. Now, there is one thing that I really wanted to talk with respect to Manchester United and Eric Ten Hag. Now, Eric Ten Hag moved Mount in the second half, where maybe it was some tactical decision where he thought that Mount was not adding the amount of value that he could have added, or now that we know that maybe he was suffering from some injury which could have affected it. But from my understanding, you removed Mount, that's fine, that's all fine. But during the latest series of the game, Manchester United biggest strength is on their wings, where they have absolutely rapid wingers. Now let it be Garnacho, let it be Amad Diallo, let it be Rashford, let it be Anthony. Considering who is in form or who is not in form is not the question here. But the thing is, all of them have good pace. So they are all rapid wingers, where if during a transition, if there is a chance that comes in for a counter attack, they are the one who can really take the ball and drive it on the opponent half and could give United the chance to scoring a late goal. And according to my understanding, the best player to do this for Manchester United in order to take control of the wingers that are there in United is Bruno Fernandes. He is the creative guy for Manchester United. He has the creative skills to land that cross on the feet of any of those wingers who are far wide, to make that transition and to get that counter attack happening. And I don't know why, I don't know what tactical decision was it, but Ten Hag substituted Bruno Fernandes as well, which was a bit surprising for me, that if there was a chance that comes up during the later stages of the game, let it be towards the 90th minute or in the added time, Bruno Fernandes would have been the player to give that ball to any of the wingers to start the attack. None of the other players, let it be Mainu, Casemiro, and he got Scott McTominay, who I can understand that defensively or maybe his ability to win headers would have affected the game, but in order to give that creative pass or to break through the lines, he is not the guy. It is Bruno Fernandes for Manchester United. And I think I don't know what are your thoughts on this, but I think this was a mistake from Ten Hag on moving or removing Bruno Fernandes from the game. Now I really want to take a moment and talk something with respect to Marcus Rashford. Now there was a lot of trolling that was happening for Rashford. Now I understand that he didn't have a good game. He was quiet. He didn't affect the game as Manchester United fans would have needed. But there is something that we need to discuss about Marcus Rashford. Rashford is a good runner. So if you put him on through balls, if you put him on counter attacks, he is one of the most ferocious winger that is there in the Premier League. He can run, he can score, he can dribble past a couple of players. But there is a big difference why Rashford is not performing in Manchester United. The game has changed. Earlier, during Ole Gunnar Solskjaer time, the game was mostly on counter-attacks, where Rashford used to play in transition and counter-attacks, where the ball was fed to him, either a through ball or an aerial cross, and then he used to run with the ball, cut the player and score. Now with United under Eric Ten Hag, they are trying to keep possession of the ball. Now in order to keep possession of the ball, like how Pep Guardiola or Arteta does, they need to keep their players, or at least the wide players, who will hold the width of the field. So they will be very high and holding the width of the pitch, and they are not allowed to play in their normal fashion, where they will run, attack with the ball, cut the first defender that is there, and then try to take a shot or score a goal, or try to pass or give a low cross. But the game has changed, where they need to hold the ball, make sure they need to wait for the movement of other players who are running in the box, then give the ball to them, try to hold the ball. So the game has really changed from a ferocious winger to more of a player who can take control of the ball and invert. Invert is the keyword, guys. A lot of players need to understand what inverting means. They cannot keep playing the usual self that they used to do in their earlier days. With Eric Ten Hag also copying the philosophy of Pep Guardiola, what Arteta copied, and what all the other managers are trying to do, where they try to play from the back, hold the position, make sure of the runs of other players, try to put the defenders, either it can be a left back or a right back, in inverted center midfield positions, and the wingers also need to be inverted. So I think because of these changes in the game and what Eric Ten Hag wants, I think Rashford is suffering from this. He is the out and out old school winger who can run with the ball, cut a cut a player or two, and then score the goal. But unfortunately, that is not happening. That is not what Eric Ten Hag wants Rashford to do. He wants him to hold the ball, make sure of other players run, cut back, cut in, invert. So these kind of things, which is proving tricky for Marcus Rashford. And I think this is the reason why he is not performing at the optimum level he should. Now, Kobe Mainu was impressive in the game, as he always is. He had the most amount of interceptions, that is 5, and the most amount of take-ons, that was 4, than any other United player in that game. I think Kobe Mainu will be really helped if United sign Ugarte. They really need some other player also to have pace in the Manchester United defensive area. Casemiro, he is really good, but he is lacking the pace right now that is required for the Premier League. And needs Kobe Mainu has to do a lot of running because of that. I think United should get Ugarte as soon as possible. Now, on another stat, it is given that Manchester United have lost a lot of games in the added time, and there were a lot of 90th minute goals that were conceded by Manchester United that have led to their loss. The amount of goals that have led to the loss in 90th minute is 6 under Eric Ten Hag, and there were only two goals in the 90th minute where United lost the game from 1992 to 2022 until Eric Ten Hag took over as the manager for Manchester United. Now let's look at some of the things that Manchester United manager Eric Ten Hag had to say after the game. So there was what even we discussed, where if you see, he also said that we did not stop the cross. Ten Hag explained to journalists when asked about the Brighton's winning goal to secure all the 3 points. There were 3 players. Right-footed player, send him down the line, send him wide instead of letting him come in and let the cross. We have, of course, to talk about this. What he's essentially trying to say is what we discussed, where United could have easily made sure that the player who crossed the ball to send him down the line, making sure that even he was attempting to cross the ball, stop it, deflect it, send it out for a corner. It could have been avoided in so many ways, but unfortunately the cross was done and the marking on the player on the far post was invisible. There was no player for marking absolutely 3 Brighton players, which was a bit of shambolic. In other thing, the Ten Hag also said that it was due to a injury concern where he substituted Mason Mount. It was not something related to tactical, where he wants to give Mason Mount and try to make sure that he doesn't forces him, or where he wants to make sure that Mason Mount is well managed in terms of game time and recovering from his injury. So he substituted him on halftime where he felt that he had some concerns. So he brought him where he had. Now, even though United lost the game, there were some really good things that we saw during the game. It was some beautiful football during some transitional play where a lot of people on Twitter were saying it is the Ten Hag ball, but we really saw some good transitional moves. But unfortunately, all those moves came when Mount was there. So Mount, because of his pressing, because of his pressing and making sure when he's on the ball to give quick 1-2s to other player to keep the ball moving and making sure the transition and the counter-attack happens well. That was one thing that we saw that was very good with United. We saw a glimpse of these things last season as well, but I think now United are trying to click into gears. The second thing was Diallo's performance was really good. Apart from a couple of chances where he could have done a bit better by shooting for Dalot's cross or passing the ball to Rashford, he looked really good. Mainu was superb as well. And I think the more the defensive players like Dillet and Martinez start playing with each other, their chemistry will develop, and the defensive decisions that they are taking right now and the positioning that is incorrect right now would start to change, and Manchester United would have a better and a stable team to work with. So let me know your thoughts, guys, in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe this video. Share it with your friends, and do let me know what do you think Eric Ten Hag or Manchester United to do in the next days of the transfer market. Thank you for tuning in. Take care.